But in this season, our focus, again, I keep saying the word nugget, this is like the third or the fourth time, is to really give nuggets of knowledge. We're going to call that nuggets of knowledge. Can we coin that? I like that.
Nuggets of knowledge.
Nuggets of knowledge that can help small businesses get a mark in the win column. You like that? It's like a little tacky. Mark in the win column.
Yeah.
So at the bottom of the hour, we are going to talk about how one goes about in responding to RFPs or RFIs and RFQs, and I'm actually going to put you on the platform to be like, what does all these acronyms mean later on in the show?
Because I love acronyms.
Hello. Lynn Pingle here, CEO of Mackey Company. Jared, we are on YouTube and broadcasting the Procurement Games podcast and open conversations on WFNU 94.1 Frogtown Community Radio.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
It's kind of weird that, this is going to go out into the ether, into the digital world, but right now we're just sitting here in a podcast studio having this conversation.
I know, and it's episode 2.
Episode 2.
It's kind of crazy,
Episode
right?
1 was on Zoom. Sorry about that. We weren't able to do it in person. Yeah, but now we are, podcast studio and all.
And you know what? The beauty of technology is what allows us to do that. So let's talk to our audience about our show. And really what it's about is providing a platform for small businesses to showcase their expertise, share their stories, sort of talk about the challenges and the lessons learned that they have had as a small business, right? And more importantly, what issues they face in procurement and contracting, the barriers with opportunities and access. We also want to share some solutions and really get into the nuggets of what we're talking about in solutions that make sense and give our small businesses a better chance at winning these contracts. So with that said, there's always this segment that you absolutely love where I ask you to just do a highlight introduction of yourself because you just love doing that. So take it away.
Yeah, I love talking about myself. I can go on for hours talking about myself. No, my name is Jared Peterson. I'm the CEO of Straightforward. We're a technology orchestration firm, or if you're in the construction world, we'd look like more of an information technology general contractor. So what we do is we take the problems of our clients, listen to what they've got going on, take that information in, design the technology systems and suppliers that come after that, and make great outcomes for our clients. So that's what we do. But here we are in our second episode of the season, and it's a bit nerve-wracking being on video because I don't know where to look right now. I think I'm looking up at the screen. However, I have notes also I need to do, so I don't know what this is going to look like when we go ahead and put this out into production. But, how did we actually do last week with our first episode?
Our episode dropped, right?
Yeah.
And, I always look to see if anybody's even paying attention to the fact that we now have a YouTube channel. We didn't really put out there that, hey, we're going on YouTube. We just sort of
verbally
verbally
talked. There wasn't a big fanfare press release or something like that?
You know what? That's a good idea. We should press release it.
Push it out and just see who picks it up.
Yeah, why not? And so since we didn't do that, I sort of did the manual, what's that called? Analytics to see how many. So I think within an hour, we had 33 people check it out and look at it. And what was really interesting of the 33 is that 40% of it, and I'm just looking at this through the YouTube channel statistics.
YouTube analytics.
Yeah, the analytics. 40% of them, not only clicked, check it out, and what it's about, they actually listened. So 33 views, 40%, that's what, 15?
Yeah.
A little under 15?
With no fanfare.
And
it just is actually, as we're talking right now, it's probably playing live on the radio.
Yeah.
On WFNU.
It probably is. That's right.
What time is it now? Anyway, you can go ahead and backtrack when we recorded this episode.
There you go. So, one of the things that I really, really enjoyed is, having this platform gives us a different method of really reaching out to our audience, and hopefully they get a little bit more, like I said, these nuggets that we're about to do. But we oughta encourage our WFNU listeners and others around the country, actually even in the globe,
like and subscribe.
To like and subscribe. Is that the cue? To like and subscribe?
We should probably in post. We'll fix it in post.
There you go.
Put a like and subscribe button.
Yeah, like and subscribe button. I'm sure they this is not
You know
like
where that
the
is.
brand news. Everybody ought to know where the like and subscribe button is and follow so that they can, get the latest and greatest episodes as we drop them on Thursdays at noon. What do you
Right.
think of that? Is that kind of how that works?
That's kind of how that works.
Okay, that's good.
And so then they'll show up on YouTube, and then you can follow them. You get notifications that when a new one hit. You can also listen live on WFNU 94.1 at certain times. However, if you wanted to watch it or listen to it on your own time, then you can see it on YouTube. So,
track that down. You can also go to our website, procurementgames.org. We'll have the latest uploads, audio. Let's see, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all your favorite.
right back to here.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that worked. We just, as I was talking, I decided to throw the cover screen up, but I just realized I don't have that in audio format.
There you go. There you go.
So, what's our hot topic this week, Lynn? What are we talking about this week?
So I thought we'd kind of recap, since we're new to the YouTube channel, kind of just give a flashback of what we did in season 1, some of the entrepreneurs that we spoke with, as well as the trailblazers. But in this season, our focus, again, I keep saying the word nugget, this is like the third or the fourth time, is to really give nuggets of knowledge. We're going to call that nuggets of knowledge. Can we coin that? I like that.
Nuggets of knowledge.
Nuggets of knowledge that can help small businesses get a mark in the win column. You like that? It's like a little tacky.
Win.
Mark in the win column.
Yeah.
So at the bottom of the hour, we are going to talk about how one goes about in responding to RFPs or RFIs and RFQs, and I'm actually going to put you on the platform to be like, what does all these acronyms mean later on in the show?
Because I love acronyms. Please explain them to me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just as much as you love directories. Yes.
We talked about directories last week too. That was last week.
Yes, that was last. We're going to let that in the past.
Yeah.
And the thing with RFPs, Jared, is each one is not created equal, are they?
Oh no, no.
No, they're not. Some make sense. Some give you the freedom to innovate. They actually let you innovate in RFPs. And others are so strict, you get points docked for not following the margins, the font size, the size of the paper. It's kind of almost like, I'm going to throw this back, like MLA and what is the other one? AP format when you're writing papers in college. Even in high school, I think they do that type of thing. So that's sort of what's in store for this episode. So should we jump right into the episodes that we talked about in season 1? Because you weren't with me season 1, Jared Peterson.
I was a little bit behind the scenes. I did, but yeah, let's hop in. What do we got?
All right.
What happened in season 1? I was there for a few of these. We helped set up some of these. Some of that stuff. But I was not around for all of them. That is for sure.
Let's talk about the very first episode. You actually did the very first episode to kick off season 1 of
I
Procurement
did.
Games.
I was, yes.
Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah, you witnessed it. As did Foster Hackett. At Advanced Assigned Contracting, we had a slew of construction industry experts. So we had Foster Hackett, Advanced Assigned Contracting, Babette and Patrick Buckner with Moltron Builders, St. Paul-based Trotbins Construction, headed by Miss Tamiko Trotbins herself. And we also, chatted with different industries. In season 1, we had, again, St. Paul based. We were in St. Paul, so we were hitting up all the businesses in St. Paul, Minnesota. SJC Body Love, Sabrina Jones, talked about her product line and the struggle to get her products on the shelf. And then COVID hit. Erin Farrell and her Power Partners, who opened a Coven in St. Paul, offering co-working space for women entrepreneurs. She has since expanded and has opened franchises throughout the Twin Cities, and I believe she's even going out of the state of Minnesota. Jared, we also had this thing called Trailblazers. What are Trailblazers?
Trailblazers are those that pave the way for small and diverse businesses to win. Get that checkbox in the win column. They're changing the system from the inside to make it easier for small businesses, diverse businesses to make it inside of their large organizations.
Yep, that's exactly what it is, and that wasn't even in the script. Well done.
I'm going to pat myself on the back.
There you go.
I can do that on video
Visual
now.
pat.
See that? There you go.
Yeah, there you go. And we had, again, I can't highlight every single one of them, but we had Ben Baggio, the director of Minnesota Governor's Workforce Development on. We had Karen McCabe, who was the outreach director for McGuff Construction, who has since retired. So she's having, I'm sure she's having.
She was too awesome.
Yeah, she was too awesome. She's just amazing, amazing woman. Noel Nix, Director of Community Initiatives at the City of St. Paul's Mayor's Office. And obviously, we had you
I
there.
didn't do it. Wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. So, what's the state of the union on the tech world since you came on the show 2 years ago? I like that state of the union, considering it's January.
Well, I don't know where that's going, but anyway, well,
Just give me an update on technology.
Update on technology. It's more of an update on straightforward and where we sit. It's been a long time in the running. We've talked about IDIQs and the like, and how those fit into things. And we landed a couple contracts. So our first contract with the state of Minnesota is inked. We got A portion. We have a B portion that's coming online here. And then we also got an award for servers and storage with the state of Minnesota. So what's really cool about what we were able to do there is we're the only diverse business in the targeted group business category for the state of Minnesota for telecom services. So that was an interesting scenario to see. So we're seeing some changes and the like. So but those things were a long time in the running. 3 years in the making, some of them, 2.5 on another one. So it's been kind of a long slog. And that's what we hear from lots of our businesses. And so, in fact, Season 2 brought some entrepreneurs as well, some really amazing ones. We look at Jill Pavick and Deb Locke, who are at the Urban Growler. They were talking about the science of brewing, but the challenges of getting a brewery going as women and having the science in place, the credentials in place, and it was kind of, if you go back to that episode, who actually invested in them. They had gone around to all the banks here in the Twin Cities, and who actually invested them was not a Twin Cities bank or a city bank. It was a rural bank who actually put the money forth in order to get their business going. We also talked with Victoria Yepes from YM Management and
Belkis Cruz.
That's what that says?
Yeah, that's what that says.
I was like, who was this again? That is a mistype. That is not what that says.
I apologize for the typo.
I was like, man, I don't even know how to say that. I don't even know how to say that. But we had Belkis Cruz from LBR Partners and Camilla El Amin from Huria Village, and they're all of them emerging developers in the Twin Cities, and their stories of where they came from, the different backgrounds that they had, the diverse perspectives that they have when they go into building projects and selecting them, and those were great stories to listen to. We also had a long laugh with Def Comedy Jam's Sonia D. That was a great conversation to have with her and listen to her talk. And Lynn, what were your recollections of all these conversations?
I've got to go back to our Trailblazers, right? Some of my favorites of the Trailblazers include the amazing conversation with Johnny Burns. Remember him? Director of Compliance over at the City of Minneapolis?
Johnny Burns.
Yeah. You know what I loved about our Trailblazer episodes is we put him on the spot on some of the questions that we did. And we actually presented them with some of the comments that we received from the community. So to actually, hear them with no prep whatsoever, respond to some of the concerns and propose suggestions to help improve the process. That was really, really kind of cool. One of the things that I also enjoyed is Ashanti Payne, right? Ashanti Payne is the Assistant EEO Director over there at Met Council.
Yeah.
And, this is going to, go right into your lap right here as it relates to this 20% technology. Yeah, we chatted a little bit about it last week. Can you just give us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a really interesting project that we got to be on. And as we talked with the Met Council on how they procured technology services, it became apparent that there was an opportunity for them to look to broaden their perspective of the technology providers that they were using. And they went back. The interesting thing was on that conversation, learning about that the business unit actually came up with their goal, the number that they wanted to set. The business unit came up with 25% as a base goal for their technology. And they thought they could hit 35% in that first meeting that we had with them. And that was a pretty neat thing because if I remember correctly, I think I said it last week, but I should have re-looked it up, but I thought they hit the 50% mark in there. So that means, and not only were we talking about, well, it's not just the checkbox; it's a competitive process. They went through 115 suppliers, and they were able to hit over 100 suppliers. Don't quote me on the number. I did say that, but don't quote me on the number. But there was like 100 and something suppliers, over 100 suppliers who submitted, and they walked away with 50% of them. Of that contract going to diverse businesses. So now the council, because they integrated that into their process, they ended up with more businesses than they even expected to contract with, and they were competitively bid. So not a checkbox or anything like that, but now they're getting new and diverse perspectives into their processes. So yeah.
And what's really cool about it is whether Met Council realized that there were that many certified small businesses that could compete or that they could carve out a small piece to, now they know, right? Because obviously hitting that goal enlightened them to go, oh my gosh, let's take inventory of what's in the market research, and now they're able to support the goal that they set and even exceed that.
Yeah.
But let me close this segment out, because one of the things that I do enjoy for sure was Jimmy Lloyd's episode. He is the Director of Economic Development for the City of St. Paul. And, he provided us insights on and highlights of the STAR grant and the restaurants' resilience programs. As you know, most of the restaurants took a hard hit during COVID. And so for the City of St. Paul to develop a program that specifically elevates the experience and improves the experience of that restaurant, I think was really cool. But what I really want to highlight, and I want to direct you to Jimmy Lloyd's episode, because this was resounding to me, and it also echoed with a lot of our listeners. And what he said was, as he got into his role as an economic director for the City of St. Paul, that he himself, quote, realized more and more that everyone deserves the opportunity to win or lose on their merit and not the basis of what they look like. That's at about 9 minutes and 40 seconds in. If you guys want to go back and revisit Jimmy's episode and hear him actually say that.
Well, listen to the whole episode, but
Yeah. Listen to the whole episode, because it's really enlightening when you have these trailblazers, especially those that are in the government agencies, pushing forth their initiative to try to make a difference, make a change. And with the landscape that it's currently in right now, having these trailblazers in play, having these conversations with us really brings awareness, right? That we're not alone, that there are folks on the inside that are championing for us and trying to make a difference, so that there is, as they like to say, a level playing field, right? Because is the field ever level in our favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we should make a mention here. I mean, we're not at the bottom of the hour on our broadcast at this point. However, we should make a mention that we have been broadcasting live on WFNU 94.1. That was all last year, and we are doing it again this year. But we want to make sure that we acknowledge the station. WFNU is a volunteer-run organization made up of many different community voices. Each program expresses one aspect of this diversity and is not the view of WFNU or Frogtown Tuned In as a whole. WFNU is a local nonprofit that provides meaningful 24/7 broadcasting to Frogtown community in St. Paul. And so please consider donating and supporting this station so it can continue its work to be Frogtown's voice. Each donation to WFNU 94.1 FM is 100% tax deductible. You can donate at WFNU.org and click donate.
Awesome. All right. So let's pivot real quick and talk about RFPs, because we're at the portion of the segment. This is new, so we're going to slightly fumble through this. This is going to be fun.
You gave me this task this morning.
I know.
To be ready for this, and so it. We'll see how well this turns out.
That's right.
We'll see how. I just wiped my nose on TV, but anyway, we'll see how well this works out. But we're going to talk about RFPs, and RFPs are boring.
No, they're not. They're advantageous. You have to look on the other side and zen with the
I hope that this conversation excites me about RFPs. Just let's try and make sure that we make this informative and exciting and
educational and non-mundane.
Yeah, not like, again, the disclaimer is I'm not a lawyer. I don't think you're a lawyer, Lynn. I don't want to even play one on TV. But we're going to talk about RFPs from our own experiences and not necessarily from a legal perspective, but how it might be able to help you in your business, and so you can understand how to possibly put a win column, a checkbox in that win column.
Absolutely. And so this is that segment. This is that new segment that we talked about. Like, what can we do to jazz up season 3? Right?
Now we have a new medium. We go ahead and use video.
Yeah.
Before I would not have been caught wiping my nose on on the radio, but now I'm on video.
There you go. So here's the thing, right? We talked about, you know what? Let's do a YouTube channel. Let's just do a YouTube channel. It's just going to be a YouTube channel. We're just going to sit and have a conversation.
Let's add
like
20 times more complexity to this process.
Absolutely. But then we decided to add another 20%. So now it's 40% complexity by actually doing tutorials that will, again, like you said, hopefully give these nuggets of knowledge so that folks can get away.
Make RFPs exciting.
Yeah, make not just RFPs, all the different topics, Again, Maggie Company has an entire licensable curriculum called Entrepreneur on the Rise. So we're basically taking industry-specific topics, business development topics, and we're turning it on its head. Not that there's not a million other YouTube videos out there in terms of responding RFPs, but this is, like you said, our interpretation. And what Mackey Company has instructed others, and we have seen them succeed after they take the course, after they take the class. So, and again, Entrepreneur on the Rise is a licensable business development curriculum that I developed and instructed alongside many subject matter experts. You've attended a couple of my classes. Actually, you attended a couple of my classes and then graduated to being on the other side teaching alongside of me, which is, you know what, if there's ever an instructor out there where the student has become the teacher, you are like the epitome of that description.
I try very hard.
Yes. Yeah. So now we just got to take the show on the road because, we do this in the U.S., and that's where the curriculum is, and it's also in Europe and in Asia. So, hey, maybe this is a good platform to expand upon that. Maybe. So, I also want to make sure to add to your earlier disclaimer that, and I'm going to read this, that everyone knows these are guidelines, and we are certainly not guaranteeing that just because you used it doesn't mean you'll get the win every single time. Folks, we've just done a handful of RFPs over the last 20, 25 years. And if you're in procurement and contracting, you kind of get the gist. The danger of RFP is these templates. Google is an amazing resource, but it's almost too much because you can practically Google everything, right? From frying an egg to writing a $1 million RFP. Okay. Are you ready?
Let's see how disastrous this turns out.
I know you've responded to a few. Why don't you start us off telling our audience what the definitions are, namely explaining the acronyms of RFP, RFIs, and RFQs.
All right, so I got an application to pull up. This is great now, so you can see what I'm seeing. But if you're on the radio listening to this isn't going to be as informative as maybe. But however,
so here's your challenge.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to have to articulate the visual to our radio listeners, and you're going to lead us off. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, you put that on me. We'll work on that. But anyway, when we look at an RFI, what is an RFI? Well, it is a request for information. The RFI's purpose is that they're looking for information to solve a problem. Typically, this appears well before a actual RFP goes out. And the idea here is to ask general questions of industry to educate the business unit before they go ahead and put together a purchasing request. One, it helps with costing, and then it also helps the business unit to understand in general what maybe they haven't been understanding at this point. They're tending to be casual, and they're really asking for help. An RFI is are fast, They show up typically 2 weeks or less. Sometimes they're a little bit longer depending on the complexity or that they anticipate of the project. And it's meant to inform the business unit about what is available in. You're supposed to mute. You're supposed to have
I'm
those.
supposed to have my phone mute. What is going on?
I know. Anyway,
Before you were rudely interrupted.
Before I was rudely interrupted on the subject of requests for information, RFIs. The advantage, it helps you get in. From a perspective of a small business trying to get in to a process, this is the closest you can get to meeting the buyer face-to-face for lunch and having a face-to-face conversation with them about what you do.
So, is this the fishing expedition?
The RFI?
Yeah. Because they're just asking for general information. They're not really asking for solid numbers. This is like what I like to say, your guesstimate. We want to know more about you and what you can provide us because we think we've got something big coming down the pipeline. So I call that a fishing expedition. Is that the fishing expedition? Because you can almost do all RFs, all requests. That's a fishing expedition.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the intent of the business unit, right? Sometimes an RFI is used to collect ideas, and then they use it, and then they give it to the vendor to go ahead. And so we're hoping for in this scenario is the altruistic version of this, right? So the RFI's intent from the business unit is to learn about what industry has available to it, and then inform their decisions about how they want to write their request for that proposal. And so instead of it being, sometimes what can happen, a pitfall of some business units is to say, well, now that I've got all these great ideas, let me give it to my preferred vendor and write it for my preferred vendor in order to go ahead and get in there. That does not happen ever.
Ever.
Never happens. But that's
You have your fingers crossed. I saw your fingers crossed.
They were not crossed. But the altruistic goal of an RFI is to learn from industry what's available, and then help the business unit make a well-rounded decision when they go to actually purchase it.
So you keep saying business unit. Let's again level set. What's a business unit? Who are you referring to when you talk about business unit?
Well, it can be, especially in technology, it tends to be cross-platform or cross-business units. So your technology solution is going to touch many, many different business units, but you'll have one business unit. So like in a city, for instance, you might have Parks and Rec who need to purchase services for whatever it is, landscaping or trees or seed or whatever the case is. They might that's one business unit that might do that. There might even be an office within that that is a business unit as well. So and sometimes they're multi-unit solutions that come about. So now you have 3 or 4 departments that actually don't talk together, don't actually work together, but now need to purchase together a solution. So that's one of the reasons they might use an RFI.
And they could also be purchasers, buyers, procurement folks, contracting folks, that they know something is expiring or they have a new need for goods and services. And it comes up, and so they want to go fishing to see who is out there that can provide or can fill this need. Isn't that from a movie? Fill a need, find a need, fill a need. I think it's from some movie.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know what movie that would be. It doesn't come off the top of my head.
It's like a robot movie. Anyway,
but personally, as a small business, the fact that I am not able to sometimes play golf with the buyers at the business unit, or kids don't go to the same school as the business unit, or something like that. Like I'm not in the same realm or world that they're in. I prefer the RFI because it gives me an inkling of where they're going to be next, and then I'm able to go ahead and attract partnerships to work with that business unit. I like the RFI process. So it helps you look credible when you're watching for those things.
Absolutely. Now, what's an RFQ?
RFQs. I don't know why I said oof. I kind of like RFQs. I don't know why I said oof. But RFQs are requests for quote. Typically, these are small purchases, and when you're talking small purchases, you're talking typically under $100,000. Sometimes it depends on the purchasing requirements, but it's pretty. It is a specific item that they're purchasing, whether it's software, goods, or services, but it's very stringent in nature. And the purpose for it is they know what they want to buy. They're going to put out a request for it. It's more like a commodity type of scenario, and they're just exploring financial details for that quote. They just need to know who can provide it to me at the best price.
Absolutely.
Questions about it they rolls off the tongue. So when they ask about it, those questions that are there, they're looking for cost and that you meet the requirements. Those are basically the two things they're looking for when you're going to go ahead and respond to an RFQ. They're very structured and very prescriptive, and then it removes distractions that allows buyers they're just focusing on basically price and compliance at this point. So I like RFQs because for the fact that I have a love-hate relationship with RFQs. My personal experience is that you don't end up seeing the RFQ in a public forum unless you're on an IDIQ, and if you do see it in a public forum, then you probably, as a small disadvantaged business, are not going to be able to meet the pricing requirements of it unless there's some kind of small business set aside or some process there to go ahead and make it easier for you to compete. But if you are on an IDIQ, it's already been shopped, it's already been played out, so now your RFQ is really just here, you already know what the pricing is and just buy it from me. So I like to be on the RFQ side if I know what the contract is or I have that contract available.
You know what would be really cool is maybe in one of our Nuggets of Knowledge episodes, we ought to go into one of the agency sites to show folks where they find soon to expire contracts so that they can make plans ahead.
Yeah,
that might be an awesome one for the
That sounds like real value right there.
That sounds like really, really good value. All right, wrap it up with some RFPs.
Requests for proposal. These are when they're ready to shop around and evaluate many factors in making a choice. So a lot of times an RFI has been issued either formal RFI, or they've done their own RFI internally. Either way, an RFI has been done. Right? So I needed information about what product I'm looking to purchase. Sometimes what will happen is they're written. Somebody hands them the information, but the purpose is really to shop around and evaluate many factors before making a choice. They're very specific and detailed, but they're also allowed some openness to go ahead and let the vendor go ahead and make a case for their business over another business. They are very formal and very direct, and complying with them can be a difficulty because a lot of times they're looking for very real requirements as well on those things. But it provides a clear comparison about all vendors and their capabilities to make a choice.
Awesome. So I'm going to recap everything that you said in some very, very simple statements.
I hope I made it fun and informative.
It does. So here's what's going to catapult what you just explained. Because hopefully everybody's watching this screen. And again, this will be available on our YouTube channel, Procurement Games. So for those of you who are listening on WFNU, head to the channel so you can actually see this presentation.
Give it a like or subscribe.
Yeah, or follow, like, or subscribe. So for our listeners, right, an RFQ, request for information, keyword is educate. It educates.
You mean an RFI?
Yeah, an RFI. It educates.
Not
it's an
RFQ.
educator.
You said
I'm sorry,
RFQ.
RFI, excuse me. RFI, request for information, keyword is educate. An RFI response is explore how a vendor might solve a problem or fill a need, right? So it's educating the buyer about you. Right? So you definitely want to be in the know with that buyer. That's why we say build relationships. An RFQ, request for quote, is a quantifier. So the first one is an educator. The second one is a quantifier. An RFQ responses provide the cost of meeting a specific need. I need 100 widgets. How much do the widgets cost? Right? On a per unit basis. The last one is request for proposal. This is your comparison. That means it's a may the best person wins. RFP responses evaluate the merits of each vendor. Are you qualified? Do you have the capacity and the capability compared to the others that can fill this need? That is really, those are the three key definitions. RFI educates, RFQ quantifies, and RFP compares. There you go. Whew, tell that 3,000 times. All right, so let me do some deep dive. Let me do some deep dive on what you should be considering when you get an RFP. First and foremost, you're going to get sent an email inviting you to respond to an RFI, RFQ,
You
and
are
RFP.
cordially hereby invited
Yes,
to go ahead and
yes.
spend hours filling out a proposal submission to us. We invite everybody to do this.
That's right. If
We
not,
encourage more women and minorities and veterans to do this as well.
certified small businesses. But if not, you are invited to look through about 1,500 pages and find yourself. That's the other way of looking at that. But this is a positive class. We're going to talk about the viability of this request and what you as a small business should be considered. So, does it align with your core competency? Right? The skill sets, the analysis, and everything else. Does it align with that? Does it fit with your capacity, or are you overreaching? As a small business, if your capacity and capability, if you're a two-man shop with $100,000 in revenue, and this RFI, RFQ, or RFP is asking for 100 widgets that's going to cost you $1 million, is that an overreach for you? There's some strategies behind it. Could you partner and so on and so forth? We'll look at that as well. Skill sets analysis. Can you actually perform the work, or you're going to have to outsource, right? What percentage can you self-perform? As a certified small business, and certified being small, women, veteran, economically disadvantaged, and so on, can you actually self-perform, and if there are any self-performance requirements? In most federal contracts, I believe it's 25 to 30% has to be performed. Perhaps it's even higher. Make sure you pay attention to that when you're reading this RFP. Third thing, the timing with your current projects. If you're already running around with your head cut off, one, are you chasing the money? And two, how is it going to fit with the projects that you currently have by people power, by financial resources, and materials, and so on and so forth?
But I don't know if I'm going to get it.
But you don't know if you're going to get it. That's right.
How do we balance that? Because, if I do get this, it might be a little bit tight. However, I got 4 other RFPs in or proposals in. I don't know if I'm going to get them all. I could get them all, but
Sure.
and then all of a sudden I'm in trouble.
That's right. That's right. So you really have to weigh how your project schedule looks as it relates to the RFI, RFP, and RFQ document that you're responding to and the timeline that they're requiring. Most RFPs you can also negotiate, start date, conclusion date, and things, even though it specifically says we need deliverables by September 1st. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me where we've had to extend because, again, you find out things as you go through the journey of your project that, hey, we're going to have to do some tweaking, reviewing, and pivoting, so that extends that timeline. So consider that when we talk about the timing with current projects. Other one, preparation. Who's writing it? If you're a one-man shop, you're it, right? The fortunate thing is now we have ChatGPT. Back in the day, we didn't have ChatGPT. The challenge with ChatGPT, and I know you love using
Artificial
ChatGPT.
intelligence.
Artificial intelligence, AI. The challenge with ChatGPT is it's an embellisher. It just rephrases what you intentionally. It doesn't actually give you the step-by-steps. It's an
And it
embellisher
sometimes
language.
gets it wrong.
And sometimes it's too fluffy, and it doesn't even sound like
I
you.
had it write out a resume the other day, and then it said, "Oh, Jared has this certification that I did not have," but I said, "Hey, take my resume, compare it against the request, and then write my resume to match it," right? And then so then you go back and you review. Always review your AI. Always review and make sure it looks accurate, because sometimes it gets it wrong. It puts information sometimes, and you're like, "That's not right. Where did you get that?"
That does
Anyway,
not make any sense.
But yes, that is a great tool in order to help you with your preparation. It speeds time, but what are the pitfalls?
Don't rely on it. Because again, if you have a relationship with that buyer or that procurement person or that contracting person, Lynn speaks a certain way. And when she writes a certain way. This is what's going to change when you put everything in a ChatGPT. It no longer sounds like you. And that's why I said it's an embellisher. It's an embellisher of words. You can write the sky is blue, and then it's going to come back at you and say, actually, the sky is blue, and it's got a shade of 20 ceruleans and all these other different colors of blue. So it's an embellisher. And so be very, very careful, because There are those that are evaluating your RFP that say you put too much fluff. And just like marshmallow fluff, it's too much fluff.
They wanted it to the point.
They want it to the point.
Sometimes other people want it super fluffy. So anyway, that's another conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, those are some of the internal assessments that you as an organization need to look at, right? You need to look to see if this is a viable project for you. If you're interested, Mackey Company actually has an RFP viability sheet. I'm more than happy to share. Comment down below, say, hey Lynn, I want that RFP viability sheet. This is something that we can definitely share with you all. We don't want to just push it out there for the fun of it. We want to make sure that we are individually connected with you if you're requesting some of this material. Okay, now let's look at external assessment. When you're looking at the viability of a project, I think we can, we are. When you look at the external assessment, who are the outside factors that could contribute to getting this RFP in the win column?
You had me confused a little bit because I was like, where are we supposed to be? But you're talking about collaborators.
I'm talking about collaborators.
Not external. Collaborators help you with external validation, external more inputs into your process. Make sure that it looks correct. You can even include them if they want it to be named on the project in order to add capacity, add value, add that capacity for in the reviewer's mind to be more viable.
But it's not even just that, right? So collaborators can be your subject matter experts. Perhaps you don't know you're not an architect.
No, I'm not an architect.
You're not an architect, but you may need an architect. And an architect may need an environmental consultant, civil engineers, and so on and so forth.
Any architect that needs a technology general contractor or a designer architect, I'm here to help.
Shameless plug, Straightforward LLC. There you go. All right. These can also be your subconsultants, your subcontractors. You can take lead. You've seen me pursue RFPs where I bring in yourself, I bring in Mitch Davis, I bring in other subconsultants to work with me because guess what? That's their field of expertise, and Mackey Company can shoulder the entire RFP. It also provides a division of authority, and again, that subject matter expertise that happens when you're collaborating with those that are in the industry that know their stuff, right? One thing that I would caution everybody, and I know this is probably like ahead of the tips component here, don't act like you've got it all. Don't be the jack of all trades and be a master of none. Be a master of one, maybe even two, and rely on subconsultants because most of us are 1-2 people shops, right? If you can represent your organization to have resources, external resources, a pool of consultants, a pool of subcontractors, then you appear to have the ability, capacity, capability to complete the mission of this project or the goal, the scope of work, and so on and so forth.
There is no way that Straightforward would have ended up on state contract if it wasn't for the large suppliers that we partnered with. We had to bring them in order to actually be a viable option for the state. So in order to deliver for their cooperative purchasing venture, which is all 50 states and territories. So you have to partner sometimes in these scenarios.
Yeah. Watch me on my time. The other component, an external factor, the ability to procure materials and supplies. Let's talk about construction, right? Right now, construction's delayed in supplies and everything, sometimes 30, sometimes 4 months, sometimes 6 months, right? So you need to make sure that as you're completing this RFP, you have the ability to procure the materials and supplies. And even the labor, because we've got a labor shortage in the construction industry and others, right? So make sure you take intake of your current inventory if it is a tangible product, suppliers and product availability. Make sure you know exactly what is available to you and when, and then most importantly, understand if the price is going to go up. Material escalation. Pay attention to that because as small businesses, we tend to forget what material escalation should be, and it should be considered. Whether there's a line that says excludes material escalation in your RFI, RFQ, RFP, make a statement that says this is only good for 90 days based on current market prices, valid for whatever, right? So make sure you address that. Last but not least, financial capacity. Do you have the working capital? Do you have the purchasing power? Do you have a line of credit? And if you don't, here's another class. Maybe this is something where we invite a financial literacy person and we can talk about how small businesses can build a line of credit. How can they build business credit so that they can acquire lines of credit and working capital? Are there programs out there that will give you money for working capital? Yes, but some of them are very specific, right? Some of them are very specific. As it relates to construction, maybe look and see what is available there. There are bridge loans in residential, but not necessarily commercial real estate and such. There are definitely a lot of programs out there for real estate development. But again, as a small business, regardless of industry, do you have the working capital? Now, if you're a consultant, it's your time and your brain power. But if you are a supplier, if you are a service provider, and you've got to come up with materials and additional labor, how does that look? And how does that sit along with all your other financial obligations? Should I talk about how much money you should have in the bank, or should we save that for financial?
That sounds financial specific. That sounds like another one altogether.
Another nugget. All right, that sounds like a plan.
That sounds like a like and subscribe for that episode so you get that notification.
Oh, that sounds like a good follow and subscribe down below.
We might even have a subject matter expert come in and talk about that.
Yeah, we just might. All right, let's push to the next episode, or the next thing. Okay, obviously this is what I was going through, so just scan right through here. The collaborations component, and then I just want to focus on that last line. Go back to that one. Given your chances of success and the likely return on this product, is your investment of time, effort, and money worth it in responding to this RFP?
That is one of the hardest things to discover, to suss out, to bring out, to figure out, because if you don't have Lynn's sheet, it's really difficult. It can
absolutely
be.
is.
It can be difficult even with it. So
absolutely,
but it helps. It's a nice tool.
Yep. All right, what are we going over? It's a request for proposal components. I mean RFP, RFI, RFQs. Okay. I wanna begin this segment by adding a disclaimer. Ooh, I like that one. Let's begin this segment by adding a disclaimer, and that disclaimer is what I said earlier. Not all RFPs are created equal. Not all of them are also well written. Some are written by committees with parts copy and pasted from other documents to make it look like it's a whole document. They vary in length and complexity. They likely also contain terms that you do not understand, and it's considered industry jargon. So keep in mind that, again, not all RFPs, RFIs, RFQs are created equal. It also changes depending on the contracting mechanism, right? If they are set-aside programs, there's different language in the RFP. So you need to make sure you pay attention to stuff like that.
The funding source is the other one as well.
The funding sources, that's right. If it's HUD sources, there's additional documents that you've got to submit to comply.
Found that one out pretty well. A certain RFP I was on found that out pretty hard.
Absolutely. And I think we're still waiting for a response to that one. Okay, before you begin, any RFP, read the entire request.
You got to read it?
Read it.
All 67,000 pages of it?
All 67,000 million pages of it. All right? Make sure, a couple of things I want you to know. Make sure you know when you can submit questions, the deadline. Make sure they are clear and concise and is not a repetitive. You just copied and pasted and said, can you explain this? Because the easiest respond, because those that are managing this process, is simply going to go refer to section 1.25. Because it's already been answered. So make sure your questions are clear, concise, and polite.
And it shows then you don't know what you're talking about.
That's
you
right.
don't really care about this RFP. It kind of shoots
just
yourself in
asking
the
to
foot
make-
when you're already.
Reference the place in the RFP that your question applies to. In section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you
Point
stated
3.
this, and this. What is the outcome of da-da-da-da-da? That's how you need to make that a robust reference. Make it easy for the person responding to the question and reduce the chances of getting an unhelpful response like, read the darn document.
Go back and use your eyes.
That's right. And last but not least, make sure you pay attention to the proposal, the document, right? Make sure you pay attention to the proposal document and the deadline in which it is due. So the most common RFPs, RFIs, RFQs have these components that you see here. You're looking at an introduction to the project and the client background. You're looking at the response process, right? What is it going to take to respond? When is the response time? Scope or description of work, scope of work, SOW, right? Your products, your services, reports, and other deliverables. Contract terms and conditions. Most RFPs and all of these request documents have a sample contract of what you're going to sign. How are you going to respond? Is it uploading online? Are you submitting it in email? Are you dropping it off? And then
print it out in a binder, and then include 4 flash drives.
That's right.
And make sure you drop it off 3 hours before it's actually due.
And then pay attention to the evaluation process and criteria. Right.
That's quite hilarious.
Yeah. So evaluation process and criteria. Let me live a little bit on a couple of these things, right? When you review the project background, make sure you only contact the person listed in the RFP and no one else, because you will be disqualified if it comes around the corner that you actually talk to someone else, okay? Make sure you understand the client's background, right? If it's an agency, understand what their mission is, and that's all public information. What is the response process? Again, consider the dates and the milestones listed on your request. The contract terms, familiarize yourself with the contract terms and conditions. What does that mean? Read everything in that contract. And if there's something that you want to challenge, like for instance, an unnecessary request for $1 million general liability, or a auto insurance requirement when you're not doing any driving as it relates to this project, you can actually counter that. And that will also help you reduce your overhead costs, right? So pay attention to that. Again, more tips and trades that we can talk to. Note the response process dictated in the request. Familiarize yourself with the criteria. Make sure you have those key points included in the proposal. Make sure you understand the scope of work. What are they asking? Does it require a task list? Does it require a project plan, a schedule? And you need to be able to articulate all of the things that you need to accomplish and its deliverables in a project plan or an action plan, right? Make sure you break down how you intend to meet the client's goals, key deliverables, milestones, and everything else. All right. Tips. Now we're crafting this. Pay attention to the format requirements: 8x11, single space, double space, margins 1 inch all around, Times Roman 10 point, 12 point, 11 point, right? Make sure you pay attention to that. A great way to articulate an RFP, not just by writing a soliloquy that looks boring, use bullet lists that highlights, use boxes. Headings are in different colors but the same font, right? Icons that highlight what you want to make sure you articulate. Graphs and charts are awesome. Make sure you got logos as accorded, and make sure you have permission to use those logos. Call-out boxes are awesome, especially if you're looking for endorsements and support. Tables, team photos, add a lovely human touch, and most importantly, do spell check. Make it look pretty. Make it easy on the eyes. Make it short. And by adding these elements, guys, in an RFP, RFI, RFQ, it really helps articulate and hone in and remove ChatGPT, because you're just going straight to the facts, right? Just straight to the facts, folks. And that's what a lot of these reviewers. Remember, they may be reviewing more than 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. And they got to read all of them.
Technology suppliers for the council.
The most important thing that I want you to pay attention, and this is personal experience, I've been in the evaluation criteria. I've received comments that says you put too much fluff. You didn't put enough fluff. You didn't talk enough about your company. You didn't elaborate on the task. You went too high level. You didn't go into detail. I'm giving some of these things because you need to pay attention to the evaluation criteria and how they're actually going to grade you in all of this stuff, okay? So I want you to pay attention to that. Final tips. I don't even think this is on screen. Use lively language and short paragraphs. Use client's language as much as possible, because when they're doing a document search and they have the keywords, just like a resume, they tend to do that, right? And the grading criteria that they're going to use to determine if what your scoring is exactly that. 9 times out of 10, it's all part of that RFP. And last but not least, check for repetition. Please do not copy and paste. Okay? Lieutenant Colonel retired David Robinson said this quote, and then we're going to end this segment here. Bids fail to meet the mandatory requirements either because they are bidding on a contract they cannot fulfill, or they fail to understand the requirements. Folks, that is why 9 times out of 10 we lose RFPs. Now, we lose RFPs on good standing. I want to lose to someone who has equal caliber, equal, everything to me. But if I don't even meet and cannot fulfill a contract and don't understand what was required, then I'm already going to lose, right? And then that's really what the hard component is. Make sure you pay attention to the dates. Make sure you read all the forms, complete all the forms. Some forms require notarization. Review, revise before you submit. Do not wait till the day of. Go in a couple of days, because if technology fails, especially if you're uploading it on a third-party platform, folks, you're going to communicate with IT. They're not going to respond to you, and then next thing you know, you're out. You can't even upload your RFP.
The other fun one is you got to file some document you didn't remember that you needed to file, and you didn't have that prep. So make sure you've gone through your prep at least a couple of days beforehand. The other fun thing is when you do to upload those things, sometimes the system is not that straightforward on how to actually get some of those things uploaded and done. And so if it's your first time doing it, especially, make sure you give yourself that time, because that is one of the worst ones. That is one of those things that is non-negotiable. Did you meet the deadline or not meet the deadline? If you didn't submit it at 11:59 at noon, on the day, guess what? You're not going to be able to be a part. You're not being considered.
And again, they pay attention to the date stamp, right? So when you upload it, the time and everything. And one last thing, don't ever be afraid that you submitted your RFP before, your response prior to the deadline, and you think that they're gonna do anything with it. They won't actually look at anything 9 times out of 10 until after the deadline is due. All right, I hope everyone found this information helpful and useful. Did we make it kind of exciting?
I don't know.
We'll find out from the comments and the reviews. Feel free to reach out to us by commenting below or emailing us at insight@procurementgames.us. Jared, final thoughts on this episode as we wrap up episode number 2 on YouTube and on WFNU Frogtown Community Radio.
RFPs are boring. That's my final thought on that.
That's your final thought?
Yeah. No,
RFPs are boring, but they can certainly make you money.
They can.
You
still need to do proposals, all those things, but they're an important part. If you're planning to do government contracting, you need to get your RFP game down. If you need to bring on partners and collaborators, and in order to make yourself more viable, do that. Make sure you surround yourself with good people who are willing to go to bat with you on these things as well. So those are all things that, and then can be a difficult thing to go through RFPs, but the other side of it is that when they start winning and landing and you have that experience down, it starts to actually be a thrilling thing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jared. So let me close this episode by saying, folks, go after that low-hanging fruit, but always remember to look up at the entire tree, filled with fruit about to ripen. Learn, strategize, collaborate for the win, because we can do more together than we can do ourselves. So until next week's episode, thanks everyone for tuning in, to our WFNU listeners and to our YouTube followers, Lynn and Jared.